Danish translator, so I translate Danish literature into English. And I want to thank Meet for Tea for publishing my translations and quite a few other issues. But this is different. This is the first time that I have Danish prose in Meet for Tea. This is an essay written in the 1940s by a Danish writer named Knud Sønderby, who was a journalist and wrote about 20 books in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. This is called A Journey in 1944. At this time, Denmark was occupied by Germany as World War II. I'm going to read the first paragraph in Danish, and then I'll read the first 2 pages in English. You can read the rest in the current issue. En rejse i 1944. Duernes klappende flugt under afgangshalens hvælvinger. Afskedstagende på perronen med ansigtene vendt bredt opad mod passagererne i vinduerne. Hils nu hjemme. Tak fordi I følte med. Sig nu, om I snart kan komme igen. Nej, nu må I da komme til os. En konversation på falderebet, som stiger til en hektisk fortissimo i det øjeblik, vogndørene bliver smækket i. Farvel. Tak for denne gang. Hils tante. Kom snart igen. Farvel. A Journey in 1944. The pigeons flapping retreat under the vaulted ceiling of the departure concourse. The send-offs from people on the platform, faces turned steeply upwards towards the passengers in the windows. Send my love to them back home. Thanks so much for coming. Come back soon. No, next time you can come visit us. A conversation at the last moment that rises to a frenzied crescendo at the second the doors are slammed shut. Goodbye. Thanks so much. Send my love. Hugs to Auntie. Come back soon. Bye. Wave, wave. A young woman takes a few steps on the platform, still holding tight to her boyfriend's hand, which the train is about to carry off. Her face is dead serious. I watch her stop and wave and become smaller and smaller, walk to the other side of the platform where she can be seen better, still waving. Finally, she disappears, and I sense how she feels as she turns her back and alone walks up the steps of the train station, while the train puts kilometers and minutes between her and her boyfriend. She was wearing a little red hat, holding a handbag. Why do I remember her and none of the others that were there? An older woman in a tent of silver fox, holding 2 hat boxes, forces her way through the aisle. She is both panicked and offended by the fact that she hasn't yet been able to find a seat. Won't you let me get by? She hisses at me, and I shrink to my thinnest possible form under her punishing gaze. How am I supposed to get by? She says in the same tone to the next one. But he is a tall, traveling businessman, bright and imperturbable, who in his own good time collects himself to have a look at her. By moving your legs, he says, almost astonished. But there's a seat next to you, she screams suddenly, and pushes her way back towards him with her hat boxes. But that is mine, answers the traveling businessman. You can't take up places like that, she says triumphantly, and is already past and about to remove his hat from the seat. Yes, you can. It says so in the newspapers. With an ingratiating smile and pleading face, she angles for agreement from the others in the car, oblivious to the fact that they already hate her immensely. The traveling businessman goes to stand outside in the vestibule, can't be bothered to take part in this any longer, leaves it to the others to explain the truth of the matter and get her out. They do. We can hear her demanding voice from the next car. 5 minutes later, she returns from her fruitless hunt. Attacking with her hat boxes, she fights her way resolutely through the aisle. I don't care. I won't stand for it, she says, ripping the businessman's fedora from the seat, smacking it down angrily on the neighboring passenger. planting herself heavenly and adamantly in the seat, and continuing, without looking at anyone, to speak aloud about excessive, gross injustices. The traveling businessman stands in the aisle staring at her with a faraway look in his eyes. Suddenly his attention peaks, due to a terrible suspicion. He rises to his full height with a smoldering look in his eyes and murder in his voice. Tell me, are you sitting on my hat? The lady looks away nobly. A man smiling hands the hat out to him intact. Oh, thank God, he says, relieved, sinking back into his imperturbability, putting the hat on his head. Then I will have the conductor remove you, he remarks to the lady, and turns to leave again. You can be sure that in another country a gentleman would not make a lady stand, she says in his direction, nodding to herself. She got in there, and it might be a good thing that others heard it too. I wouldn't either if it were a lady we were talking about. Thank you very much. This is the first time that he's ever been read in English, as far as I know.
You
Thanks for being invited.